All right, Raider Nation, let's get into some juicy stuff that just came across the desk last night, and I want to share it with you guys today because it appears as though the Patriot way is making its way back to Las Vegas. Yes, that's right. You heard it here first on the Raider D podcast that the Patriot way 2.0 is on its way with this breaking news. And that breaking news is that Mark Davis is set to have an official interview with Mike Vrabel, former Patriot and buddy of Tom Brady, to be the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, as it does certainly appear that Antonio Pierce is going to be a one-and-done head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and Mark Davis will be moving on from him, according to insider sources with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the fact that he has an official meeting set up with Mike Vrabel on Monday, only one day after the last game of the season, goes to tell you everything you know. You don't go interviewing head coaches if you plan on keeping your head coach. Even if he were to change his mind, even if he was on the fence about keeping Antonio Pierce as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, the fact that you are interviewing another head coach, one from the former Patriots team in Mike Vrabel, would send a very negative signal to your current head coach and really ruin that relationship. Now, apparently Mark Davis is set to have a long conversation with Antonio Pierce, and what that means, we're not really sure at this point. Could he offer Antonio Pierce an assistant head coach job, a demotion from head coach, and bring in Mike Vrabel as the new head coach? That to me also would seem very irresponsible of Mark Davis. You really can't go and give somebody the head coaching job and then say, hey, listen, we really like how the players love you, but we don't like the fact that you don't know how to be a head coach. So we want you to take a demotion, be a cheerleader on the sideline, and we're going to give the head coaching job to Mike Vrabel. To me, this spells absolute disaster for the Las Vegas Raiders. Why? Well, because Mike Vrabel did get to the playoffs as a head coach of the Tennessee Titans a couple of times, and he was even named AP Coach of the Year. However, his last couple of years there were abysmal. He is reported to be very difficult to work with, though the players do like him and respect him. But according to his relationships with GMs and ownership, that doesn't go over very well because he's a very hard-headed dude. And he hasn't done anything consistently for a long time for, anyone to say, yes, this is absolutely the guy, because Mike Vrabel doesn't call plays on defense. Mike Vrabel doesn't play calls on offense. So if you hire a Mike Vrabel, you still have to bring in an offensive coordinator. Now, whether that's going to be Turner is going to get the full job under Mike Vrabel, is Vrabel going to bring somebody else? Would we bring in another defensive coordinator? Because it does appear as though Patrick Graham is on his way out as well, as he turned down an extension to stay with the Las Vegas Raiders as the defensive coordinator. Yes, you have Robert Saleh out there. He's an option. You could absolutely get Mike Vrabel to go and recruit Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh, despite the Jets' issues, and I think they had a lot of issues there, one of them was not really the defense. Robert Saleh's defense, and he was, kind of the one that overseeing the entire defense, was pretty darn good throughout his entire tenure. He is a good defensive coordinator. I think he would be a perfect replacement for Patrick Graham. I think the defense could even be better under a Robert Saleh type of a defense versus what we have with Patrick Graham right now. So there could be that benefit there, because remember, Vrabel was a linebacker in the NFL as a player. So again, he's not an X's and O's guy either, and that's the whole knock on Antonio Pierce, is he's not an X's and O's guy, and he's not calling plays. But if you go and just replace him with another ex-player, ex-linebacker, what for? What is the reason? If you're going to rely on a head coach that is just going to be the rah-rah guy, he's going to get the guys hyped up, he's going to get the guys ready for the game, but you're leaving it to the offensive coordinator and you're leaving it to the defensive coordinator, then why not just keep Antonio Pierce? Because as it shows right now, The Raiders players, they're playing their butts off. They absolutely love Antonio Pierce. As I reported here from insider reports from players themselves have said that has gotten to us here at the Raider D podcast that they have signed a petition to keep Antonio Pierce as the head coach. They don't blame Antonio Pierce for what has happened. There is a lot of stuff that has gone under, and I reported this about the civil war going on within the administration of the Las Vegas Raiders. There is some headbutting going on, apparently, between Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce. They are not seeing eye to eye on how to run this ship and right this ship. Mark Davis is not seeing eye to eye on how to do this, as he is infatuated with Shedeur Sanders. And Tom Telesco does not want Shedeur Sanders. Apparently, Tom Telesco wants Cam Ward. So there's a lot of friction going on with the Raiders right now, and I think simply just firing Antonio Pierce is not going to be the solution if your solution is just to bring in Mike Vrabel, who is basically just a white version of Antonio Pierce. So for me, it makes absolutely no sense that this is going to happen. And I understand that Mark Davis wants to start the interviewing process because it's pretty much guaranteed that Antonio Pierce is not going to be the head coach. So he wants to start this process pretty quickly, because you're not going to be able to interview a Ben Johnson or any of these other capable potential head coaches that you want to until after the playoffs are done, because you have to wait until they get through a certain point in the playoffs before you can even do an in-person interview with them. So you get it started now. If you're going to fire Antonio Pierce, you're probably going to fire him Monday morning, or knowing Mark Davis, you're probably just going to call him at midnight and say, hey, you're fired. Pack up your stuff. Get out. And then Monday, you're going to have that interview with Mike Vrabel. But what would Mike Vrabel bring to the Las Vegas Raiders? Let's take a look at some of his stats. In 2018, as head coach, he went 9-7, finished third in the AFC South. In 2019, he went 9-7, advanced to the AFC Championship game in a 2-1 and was 2-1 in the playoffs. In 2020, he went 11-5 as head coach. Playoffs, lost in the wild card round. And then in 2021, he had a record of 12-5. This was his best season yet as a head coach. Lost in the playoff divisional round, and he was named AP NFL Coach of the Year. But then he's had a really bad downslide in 2022, went 7-10, missed the playoffs, and 2023 went 6-11, missed the playoffs. Now, the reason why he got fired was apparently because he was butting heads with the GM and the ownership on the direction of the team, and he was blaming them for the losses that the team was having and not taking account for himself. And they were blaming him for the losses and not taking account. Who was right? Who was wrong? Who knows? We do know that he has been a head coach in the NFL. He has several years of experience, and he was able to get his team to the playoffs 3 times. That is pretty impressive in a short coaching career as a head coach. But again, what happens if Antonio Pierce gets 5 years of coaching under his belt? Would the Raiders make the playoffs? If the Raiders go and get Ashton Genty and fix the running game, if the Raiders were to go and add some more stability to that offensive line, which has drastically improved since the beginning of the year. What if you were to go out and get an ex-receiver like a T. Higgins for Aiden O'Connell? Or you were to draft Tet McMillan out of Arizona. He is the best receiver. Now you have an ex-receiver. If he has all of these things and he doesn't have the plague of injuries that he's had this year, wouldn't it be plausible that Antonio Pierce could get this team to the playoffs as well? Because Mike Vrabel is not a Super Bowl winning champion head coach. He just got his team to the playoffs and lost. That's something that Antonio Pierce could probably do. So again, let me know down in the comments below, how do you feel about Patriot Way 2.0, that Mike Vrabel is officially going to get interviewed for the head coaching job of the Las Vegas Raiders come this Monday, and Antonio Pierce apparently is on his way out the door? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.